Twitter that we're or not Twitter in our thing that we're live. Let's see.
Slack.
Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah, I know. We added another member to the Comma Club last night. You almost got there too in baseball, right?
Yeah, it was a very. I did it.
Huge
It was
hit.
like I came in second. It was a very small tournament. I think first place was $100.
All right.
But
Oh, why
yeah,
do I thought you hit for 800 last night? That was not you who hit for 800. Oh no, that was someone else hit for 800 the other night.
no,
For
that
80?
that wasn't me. Yeah, 60 or 80, something like that.
No, that's still a good win.
Yeah, I did there was like a 500 person no, not even, probably like a 200 person four-seamer like right before lock that I was bored last night. The wife was out, so I just threw a lineup in. I saw Johnny's stuff in the in the Slack, and I hadn't played some Showdown in a while. So like, hey, you know what? Baseball season's probably over tonight. Let me throw one in, and his stuff is always right on point, even with the relievers. It's crazy.
That's always nice. Well, between you and then I think John Swan hit something the other day, and Rich hit for 1,000 last night. And
yeah,
who was it early? Was it Chris who hit? Chris Patterson who hit earlier in the week for like 700-800. Someone hit big the other day, and then I got the win. And hockey's been on fire. Like we're just cashing like crazy, and now we gotta bring it to football here. Like we're gonna continue to do it. Like we got it this week. I think we got it this week.
I think
good.
so.
I got the cash lineup up, and I told my friend, the one I used to partner with when I was in Vegas. I said, listen, I'm sending you this so I don't tinker. If I tinker, if this is not my cash lineup, when we lock on Sunday, I owe you $20. And I said, if I refuse to pay you the $20, because I'm a cheap bastard, I said, you can kick me in the dick the next time I see you. Like, that's where we're at. Like, I will not come off this cash lineup unless someone's a surprise inactive. Then I have every right to change that. But if there's no surprise inactives, what you see is what I'm going with. I am completely bought in on my 3 running backs. I have been trying to get off of Hopkins all week to go up to Tyreek Hill, but I'm not sure it's a Tyreek Hill week. I'm just ready to go. Morning, Brandon. I'm ready to go. Like, this is that. I'm not going to mess around with Conklin anymore. I'm not going to go for the Johnny Mitchell or whatever the guy's name is for the
Lions.
The Lions. I'm just there. This is where I'm at.
So what's your so on the tight end spot, because you have $200 left. So what's your thinking, thought process, rationale, anything on that as far as using Conklin over Evan Ingram or even Foster Moreau if Darren Waller is out?
I really like Evan Ingram this week, and in my Jacksonville tournament stack, I'm absolutely playing Ingram. The volume is there. It's a great matchup, but I'm not stacking in cash, and I've already got ATM, so I won't play both. I won't play both guys. Now, in terms of Moreau, this kind of goes into what happened last week. Now, I know Moreau had a decent-ish game with his 9 points last week, and the target volume's there, but you brought it up in your article about the Chargers, but the same thing for the Raiders. The West Coast team coming east. The Raiders look like a mess. And there's no guarantee that it's going to be Moreau. I'm not as bought in as I am on Conklin, who continues to be a guy the Jets are going to need to throw to. The 16 targets the last 2 weeks. He was big earlier in the year, with the 5 or more targets. He only had 2 really bad weeks this year. I think with the wide receiving room being a little messed up and the Bills they're going to go up big. So the Jets are going to have to throw. And I don't see Wilson, or I could see Mike White getting in this game. I don't think, or Strevler, whoever the hell they're going to have backing up today. I don't see him having a ton of time to get the ball downfield much. And so it's going to be a lot of Michael Carter and Tyler Conklin. So I'm just going to take the potential volume here. And I think, it's at that price. And so I would go Ingram if I wasn't using ATN. Like, no doubt would go Ingram for the extra 100, but I am going ATN, and I just can't. Jacksonville's not a strong enough offense where I could do it. Like, I could make the case for going Eckler, Josh Palmer, or Eckler, Gerald Everett, or Eckler, Michael Bandy if DeAndre Carter ends up getting ruled out, but I'm not there. I can't go there on Jacksonville. I don't think they're strong enough. It's why I'm not going with Kmet either. Like, I think he's in a great matchup, but I'm not ready to stack Justin Fields in cash yet. If I'm doing a Justin Fields stack, I think Kmet is in play. I do like the idea of Fields with a double run back of Waddle and Hill with a single stack with Kmet or Mooney. So I've got that, but again, just the volume's not been there. So that's the thought process there. And I hate leaving $200 on the table, but I don't want to spend up on defense. I'm just fairly locked in on the Panthers. They've just got a decent enough floor. Cincinnati's offensive isn't great, so there's still a chance that Panthers can go in there and force some bad decisions. I think Cincinnati rolls, but if I can get 5 points out of the Panthers, I'm happy. And so I see nowhere else I'd really want to spend up on. The other position I considered it was at wide receiver, using that $200 to go up. I think Paris Campbell's 4,200 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he's 4,200, and I do like the Paris Campbell. I do like what he's done, but last week with Ellinger there, he didn't do great. The volume was there prior to that, and I do believe in Khalif Raymond. You brought up an article that a lot of the targets for Josh Reynolds and Hawkinson are going to go towards St. Brown, but outside of St. Brown getting 22, 23 targets, which I don't think is going to happen, Raymond's like he can 18. Like it's not a possibility. And I actually love stacking that game from side with a single Green Bay run back. But Raymond's gotten 4 more targets in 4 straight weeks, and now Josh Reynolds isn't there. Hawkinson's not there. Green Bay's not great in the secondary, and Detroit's going to have to throw. And Detroit plays really well at home. So if I can get 3 for 76 out of Raymond this week, like I'm happy with that. If he gets a touchdown or gets, his ceiling game for the year, well, that ceiling game's 3.5 times his price. I'll take that for 4K. And I do think there's a path for 20 points for Raymond today. I think he's a guy that's going overlooked. And where else are we going to spend down?
And also too, I think an important thing here with Khalif Raymond, that if people are hesitant to use him, one positive thing on him as well, all 25 of his targets this year have come out of the slot, and that's a really important point because the Packers are much stronger outside than they are inside, and that's why Amon-Ra St. Brown is pretty popular today because most of his receptions come out of the slot as well. So if Brown is lining up on the inside and avoiding Jair Alexander and the outside corners, it gives him a lot more opportunity. And the same thing with Khalif Raymond as well. Obviously if Raymond's lined up in the inside, it's going to lead to Brown lining up a little more on the outside, which is probably a little better for the Lions as well. But it does give Khalif Raymond some upside, and just given he's more of a backup wide receiver in this league, having the weaker of the matchup is very helpful there too.
Yeah, I really feel like 5 for 50 is the floor there, or 4 for 40 even. Like that's an 8-point floor. I'll take that with a little bit of upside, and running out of the slot's huge for him with the injuries, with the trade of Hawkinson, with the fact that Swift is going to be limited. I thought about Terrace Marshall, but at $100 less, honestly, Detroit's just a better offense. I do think Carolina may have to throw, but Cincinnati's a little weird team. So if Carolina keeps it close, Marshall maybe doesn't get volume that he needs, and his hands are like he is not looking great. And I thought Michael Bandy's in play, but again, I've got Eckler, and I really don't want to double up with Michael Bandy, who could be useful if DeAndre Carter's out. Like I know he's been dealing with that illness, but or even limited. But what he's capable of, like that one reception for -5 yards on 6 targets doesn't give me hope. Like he's more of a tournament dart for me. Yeah. And then I also looked at Damiere Byrd, who I really like this week, and I probably shouldn't, but I've got far more Damiere Byrd than I should have this week. And maybe I'm chasing last week's touchdown or the week before's long catch, but he's going to become a bigger focal point in this offense. And now that the running game should be improved with Cordero Patterson, who's caught less passes, Damiere Byrd could be the slot guy that they're looking for. And if he goes, 3 for 67 without the touchdown, those 9.5 points are fine in cash, but I had the money to go up to the guy I really wanted, which is Raymond. So that's where I'm at. I could absolutely talk myself into Damiere Byrd in cash or, somewhere in that range. But again, I can't change this lineup for fear of getting my dick kicked. So and I don't want to pay my friend $20. Like I don't enter that much cash that's going to pay for it. So we're locked in. Like I've tinkered every single week, and the tinker has cost me cash. I've been within 1 or 2 cash. Like cash a couple of my cash lineups, but then like some of them I won't. Like I would be so clear in the cash if I just never tinkered. Even last week, going off of DeAndre Hopkins to Tyreek Hill, like that cost me a couple of points with him, but then the other moves I made cost me another like 10, 12 points. And I was only 3 or 4 points shy of cash. And the ones I missed, you know, I was $100 decision. And it's because I just, you know, you do a show like this, you talk yourself off of it. And this is not a show to talk, like I shouldn't be talking myself out of things at this point. And I've been pretty locked in on this lineup for a few days now. I think ATN and Stevenson are just stone cold locks. And I don't know if Stevenson's going to carry the ownership that he should today. Like he's, oh, there it is. There's Chris talking about the success that she's had. Look at that, the 197. That's wonderful.
And also too,
results from Chris.
You know, like you were saying, you know, if you come off of Raymond for Marshall or Bandy or Bird with something like that, it's, well, then where do you spend the money? And that becomes a thing too. Like there's really no spot that you would say, all right, the couple extra bucks gets me up from this player to that player where it makes a tremendous difference. You know, it's just not there. And exactly. the defense is in that range. You know, it's not like you're getting up to Tampa or even the Patriots where you say, okay, I think that's reasonable. There's nobody, you know, a couple $100 above Conklin that you would be comfortable with, that you need to get at tight end. There's just that maneuver is just not there. But you know, for
it's not there. Like
$600.
I like Dalvin Cook, but I don't think I'd rather go Eckler for, you know, the few $100 more.
Correct.
Significantly more, but I'd rather go Eckler for the 1,000. Aaron Jones, I don't play Aaron Jones in cash. I love him in tournaments. I will not play him in cash. Big Matt knows what's up. No more tinkering. Like Big Matt and I always end up with the same cash lineup, and then I tinker off. I think Mixon's in play this week in tournaments, and I know you wrote about him, but he's not a cash play. So where's the other cash play? Is Patterson a cash play right now? No. So Deion Jackson's going to be a popular cash play, but I don't think we need to go there. Again, where am I going to spend up? For me, my top 3 running backs in cash are ATN, Stevens, and Eckler, or Stevenson. Sorry, I don't want to say Stevens. ATN, Stevenson, and Eckler. Why go off them? If I can fit them, why go off them? I love Fields. I think Fields, if you're not playing Josh Allen, I think Fields is the guy. Could I make an argument for a few other quarterbacks? Absolutely. I think Heineke's in play. I think Cousins is in play. I think Rodgers is in play. I think Rodgers will actually be quite popular this week, but I'm not using any. I don't see the purpose. Like the running quarterback, Fields is what Jalen Hurts was his rookie year or his second year, whatever it was, when he started to figure it out. Like Fields has got 60 or more rushing yards in 3 straight games. He's had 7 or more rushes in every game. He's getting in the end zone. He's passing better. He has a decent matchup. Like if I get 19 out of him, I'm pretty happy. But we've got 25, 30 point upside. I think it's just ridiculous to not use Fields this week. So then it's like, all right, where do I spend the money? Do I go to wide receiver? Who? I'm not playing Kupp this week. Jefferson to me is fine, but I don't think he's so much better than Hopkins, and I actually think Hopkins has the higher floor where Jefferson has the higher ceiling. Tyreek is great, but I think this could be a game where they run a little bit more. I don't think they need to go there. And again, Hopkins is fine. Adams has proven to be not a cash play. Diggs has the Sauce Gardner matchup. I think he's fine for tournaments, but I'm definitely not playing him in cash. And I don't know if Buffalo's going to have to throw as much. I'm not going to T. Higgins when I can spend $600 more for him. So where do I spend? I'm not coming off of DJ Moore, though I love Terry McLaurin for $100 more. I can make that argument, but like the volume's there. Moore's finally playing like the guy he should be. This is the cash lineup. Like it's this, and I want some minutes into the game. Like I want some minutes in the last 2 games, and to me, those minutes should come from Hopkins. He's just a target monster. He should give you a 18 to 20 point floor with 35 point ceiling. I don't think he's any worse than the other guys. He might not be as big of a down-field threat as Jefferson or Hill or even Diggs, but he's got that floor. I mean, Murray is forcing him the ball. He is forcing him the ball. Yeah. So let's take that. And you want those. You know, it's only 2 games in the afternoon. Let's take one guy from that game. I actually think the afternoon games are terrible, but I'm trying really hard to make sure I get some exposure in tournaments and a little bit in cash. Like I'm running a lot of Hopkins, Lockett in GPPs. Speaking of Lockett, Brandon wants to know season long, Gabe Davis or Tyler Lockett. For me, if you are the favorite, you run Tyler Lockett. If you are the underdog, you run Gabe Davis for the upside. You kind of treat it. Do you need the cash lineup, the floor, or do you want the ceiling? Gutta, how do you feel about that?
I like Gabe Davis regardless.
You're a Gabe Davis guy though. Like you've been on Gabe
am.
Davis. I'm not there yet with Gabe Davis in terms of safety. I think Lockett's still got the higher floor, but Davis is definitely. I mean, he's got that ceiling. Like, we've seen it.
Yeah.
Only 16 catches the whole year though. Only 16 catches. That worries me a little bit.
Yeah, I know it's pretty crazy.
So we're split. We're split, Brandon. Hopefully you're just the underdog, so that way you can go and you need the points to just run Davis. Like, wait, is this for the league that we're all in together? Because the last thing I want is to give you advice. Not that my 1 in 17 matters, but am I helping you in our league, the office league? Because that's not cool. That'd be terrible.
Let's see.
I don't think it is.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. Any other cash thoughts? We actually finished our cash conversation pretty early because I'm not tinkering, so there's no real further discussion for me to have. But.
I just think with your with the running back stuff that you were saying, I think there's no need to go down to Deion Jackson. I think the only need there, and I think the only spots you'll see Jackson is in Josh Allen lineups because you'll have to. You got to make a trade-off somewhere, and Jackson is the most logical salary saver for workload to help you get Josh Allen in there. But no, other than that, I think you kind of nailed it.
I think he's fool's gold this week a little bit too. And really, which guy? And if you're going all the way up to Josh Allen, are you really going to go off of Eckler to Deion Jackson? So you're looking at Josh Allen and Deion Jackson, or Justin Fields and Austin Eckler. And to me, it's a no-brainer because Eckler is far and away better than Jackson. And I think Fields' upside, at least, is only about 10 points off of where we can reasonably expect Allen to go. I mean, I think, look, Allen could throw for 320 and 4 touchdowns in the first half. Like, this is the kind of game where it could happen, but he also might not need to. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's worth the $3,000 difference and then having to lose a guy like Eckler or lose a guy like Hopkins. I don't see it.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather chase 20 points from Fields versus 35 from Allen, at least from a cash game standpoint.
Yeah, just scream down. What about Heineke? We like Heineke.
Not for cash though. That's
not
too
for
much
cash
there.
I mean, Allen's a 30-point guy. Like he's almost got a 30-point floor, but I really feel like Fields is at a 20-point floor today, or an 18-point floor, and I don't think it's worth the extra $3K to get there. Like I think,
and I think
$3K
too.
Plus, I mean, you need 12, 13 more points out of Allen, and I don't know if that's such a lock that it's worth going down from Eckler, because I don't want to get off Eckler this week at all.
No, and I think too. Again, Josh Allen, like you said, he can do everything in the first half, but the worry is also, if a touchdown or two goes to the running backs, and the Jets have 3 points halfway through the third quarter. What is Allen really doing at that point either? So
it's time to give James Cook some work at that point. Preserve your guy. Seriously, it's preserve Hines, preserve Singletary. Give the kids some work.
It's one of those things. If Josh Allen doesn't get you close to what you need by halftime or halfway through the third quarter, there's a good shot he doesn't get there. But he also can do it in one half as well. So it's not saying it's definitely not a bad play. It's just I think the thought process of it is much different this week than the weeks we've seen.
This needs to be said. The Jets are a better defense than they've been in years. Like they're not such a pushover, and the game is in New York, and it is windy here. I don't know what it is there, but in New York and in Jersey, but it's windy here in New York. So I don't know. Looking at inactives, Velus Jones, you weren't playing him for the Bears. Josh Reynolds is inactive. I guess that means Chase Claypool is active. He'll get his 10 to 35 minutes, whatever that's worth. Josh Reynolds officially inactive. Darren Waller's inactive.
Oh, here we go. So also too for the Bills, actually. So if you are playing, a little ahead of myself, but if you are playing, any Bills stacks this week, Garrett Wilson is probably a little more in play. People were a little worried about Tre'Davious White coming back, but he's actually a healthy scratch.
Good.
So I guess he's so he's off the PUP or IR, whatever they had to take him off of, but he's not I guess still not healthy enough.
J.D. McKissick is out, which we knew, but officially inactive, and I I mean, I think that's big for this slate. I'm not going to hide my love for Antonio Gibson this week. I have far more Antonio Gibson than I should have. I think his props also, I truly feel like his receiving props are way too low. I'm a big fan of Gibson this week. DeAndre Carter is active, so I think that takes Michael Bandy out of the discussion, at least for a cash play now. If Carter is active, but he's still ill and maybe he's not going to see the field, maybe Bandy's a guy you take a shot on in a tournament, but you can't play Bandy in cash at this point. Palmer's still a cash play.
Josh Reynolds officially out as well.
Yep. Jamal Agnew is active. I don't know. That probably might hurt a little bit on receiving props for ATN, but he wasn't catching a ton of passes anyway, which is stupid, by the way. You should catch more passes. And I'm not just saying that as someone who really would like a big day out of ATN. Everyone's going to have ATN. So
So also too for the Dolphins, Teron Armstead is back and active. That should help their running game. That should be very good for Mostert.
Yes, I like Mostert today. I think he's actually a decent tournament play. James Robinson active for the Jets, but I still think it's going to be. I think it's going to be what's his face?
Yeah, I don't know how well the Jets are going to be able to run it today, but that is better for Michael Carter because he's going to catch the passes. James Robinson will not. If you do want to go there.
Joe Flacco's inactive, as is Corey Davis as expected. But does that mean? Does that mean Streveler is active, or did they not call him up from the practice squad? Is it just Mike White? And I only ask that. I don't even know why. I would say more for Rainmakers investment purposes. If you're into Rainmakers, I've been investing a little bit in Mike White in case they pull Zach Wilson, because I can. If he gets hammered today, I can see Mike White coming in. He had his helmet on. He was ready to go last week, and I think the Jets fans were kind of wanting it. Just a guy that you can sell, make a quick profit on. So if Streveler is not on the main roster and it's Mike White who ends up coming in, I think that makes a difference. Jonathan wants to know Josh Palmer or Robert Woods. It's Josh Palmer, and it's not remotely close. Palmer's in a great position, and Robert Woods hasn't done anything even as the top option, even with Treylon Burks in out. I know Tennessee's going to have to throw to keep up with Kansas City, but what if they just run? What if they just pound it down Kansas City's throat and try to control the clock? I'm not a Robert Woods guy right now. So definitely Josh Palmer. Yeah, if it's a different Palmer, please let me know, but I think Josh is the only one. Should we worry about the wind in Chicago? No, it's only supposed to be 15 miles per hour. Gusts up to 15 miles, and the weather's actually really nice there. It's 60 degrees in Chicago today. So nope, not worried about the weather at all.
Yeah. Also, too, don't forget with that Chicago wind, and it's not that impactful with where it is. Also, too, Tua is not really much of a deep thrower. They've been doing it with more like intermediate routes or really a lot of run after the catch with the skills that Tyreek and Waddle have. So maybe the wind takes other people off of it, but it shouldn't affect your decisions. It's really a non-starter, to be honest.
But you know who is a starter? Dad joke coming in, sort of, or dad transition there. Alan Lazard, active. He is playing. I think we kind of expected him to be there, but he's officially active, Lazard, which I think hurts Dobbs a little bit. But I like Lazard a little bit this week. Deion Jackson or Devin Singletary. I think it's got to be Deion Jackson. As much as I think the fool's gold, I mean, we don't know how they're going to do that. You have 0 Donta Foreman, Matt, in GPPs, and you're nervous. Don't be. He's not a play this week to me. DJ Moore and Terrace Marshall are the guys I'm going to want. I'm not worried about Foreman and GPPs. Even if he goes off, he's not going to be highly owned. I wouldn't worry too much. I guess if you think Cincinnati's going to get rolled and you're using the Panthers defense, which we are a lot, maybe you throw him in there, but you'd have to tell quite the story for Foreman to be someone that you regret missing out on, I think. Do you feel differently about Foreman? Should Matt be worried?
No, I don't think you should be worried. I think Foreman's an okay play. Lately the Bengals have been giving up more. They're missing 2 of their top run stoppers on the defensive line. But, also, too, you got to look at it as, is it going to be a close game, or is Cincy going to be up and Carolina is going to have to throw a little more? But I don't think what we saw from Foreman last week we have to worry about for this week.
I think at that price, too, I'd rather have Cordero Patterson or James Conner No one's going to be on Connor. I mean, look what he had to do last week for him. And he doesn't catch passes. Like, he needed those 3 touchdowns. The week prior, he had 19 points. 19 points is a nice 3x, but you weren't regretting not using him if he doesn't get in the end zone.
Yeah.
Last week, he was, again, 19 points. Like, it's not 19. He was at 14 points last week if he doesn't score those touchdowns. He's very TD dependent in order to his upside. He has to have a monster game for you to regret not using him. Now, this guy is one who you might regret using, Patterson, if he goes off. But even then, he's only had 1 game with more than 1 target. Like, even him, like, he's still a little TD dependent at this point. I just don't see the 120 games coming too much. That said, I'm using them because the Chargers aren't good against the run.
Yep.
But I'm not. I don't know. I think in that price range, I don't think Foreman's a guy. He's usable. I'd rather use Mostert. I'd rather use Ken Walker in tournaments, and we're definitely not using him in cash.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. And I mean, also too, the Falcons O-line is one of the better units in the NFL as well, and it's a good matchup. I mean, there's definitely a route to success for Patterson there, and he's going to be really low owned.
Gutta, you're Gutta right now.
Man, I'm going to hold you to that. I'm going to hold you to that one now.
Better watch out. We better watch out. Let's talk some tournaments. Buffalo and the Jets. The only cash play is Allen, but even I'm not going there this week. You're playing this game a little uniquely. I think if I read your article correctly, you did not see Diggs.
No,
there's a route to fading Diggs that you think you can take to play this game.
Yeah, I think using Davis and Knox make more sense. I mean, Diggs has had a great year. He's bounced back off of somewhat disappointing last year, but I think the matchup with Gardner is going to be potentially a little difficult, and also too at the price point. I mean, you need Diggs to do a ton. Where Gabe Davis gets a little bit of a better matchup, and the Jets have really started to have some negative reversion against the tight ends. For years, the Jets were awful against tight ends. They've very much improved it towards the end of last year and then beginning this year. But the last couple of weeks, they've been exposed a little bit because of their stronger game on the outside with their corners. And Allen looks for Knox in the end zone. He scores touchdowns. He's had multiple touchdown games. Gabe Davis is kind of the more of the shot put guy, but that upside is there. And again, because of the prices, there's a higher probability with how the offense, does spread it around a bit. I think there's a higher probability with their salaries that Davis and Knox can pay off with Diggs not paying off there. And also, too, for roster construction purposes, it helps you out a little bit. And then as well, I think on the Jets side, I think you can use Garrett Wilson. The Jets offense is a little banged up. Wilson saw a ton of targets last week with no Corey Davis. The Elijah Moore thing is still just not there. And really, there's kind of nobody else, unless Michael Carter is going to get, 20 dump offs this week. And also too with the Bills, Tre'Davious White not being activated, Matt Milano is out, Jordan Poyer is out as well. So they're dealing with some, significant injuries there as well. And, I think there's a good shot the Jets are going to have to throw 35 times. Conklin maybe, but the Bills are good against the tight end, and Conklin's a little bit tougher. I mean, I definitely wouldn't use Knox and Conklin in the same lineup.
Milano and Poyer out, Poyer being out is not going to help them with their defense against at the tight end, right? Those are guys who are primarily covering the tight end.
Yes, that's very true. It's just it just makes me like, if I'm using 2 tight ends, I want guys really that are going to have upside, not like just Knox and Conklin type of thing either.
Right.
If you looked for Conklin as the run back, then you probably go, Diggs and Davis, and you hope for, Buffalo putting up 45 points.
I will speak this Conklin thing into existence. Is Nyheim Hines a play all this week, or do we need to see how they run their
I don't think so. They'll probably. I was reading this morning because of his explosiveness, they're going to try to have him involved in the punt return game, which I thought was very interesting. And also too, Hines may get 6 7 to 8 opportunities this week, but unless he breaks a 50-yard touchdown on a dump off screen, something, I don't think I don't think you can expect 20 to 25 points from him.
Agreed. All right, I'm gonna put you on the spot real early in the show here, Gutta. Do you need a Buffalo stack today? Are you going to regret it if you fade this game? Let's put it that way.
I don't think so. No.
I'm on the same page with you. I don't think you need this. I don't think you need Buffalo today.
Yeah, I mean, because if
you have them, I don't think you need them.
Yeah, because I mean, to be honest, there's really one or two ways to look at this slate. If you think Buffalo's going to be the nuts, there's no point in really creating any other stacks. You know, if you make 6 main lineups a week, or you enter a tournament with 20 lineups, 5 of your 6 main lineups are Josh Allen, 15 of your 20 lineups are Josh Allen stacks, and you just create it every which way, and then you do a couple of random ones maybe to protect your ass a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, no, I've got a Buffalo stack one, and just in case, and I've like a hedge, and I've got, I think, a couple of minis maybe, but I have mostly not going after this game. I think you're absolutely right. If Buffalo's the nuts, you've got to get everything right. So we just tell the story that Buffalo aren't the nuts, and we go elsewhere because they're clearly the best team on the slate. So you avoid that. Jets keep it to where Buffalo only scores 24 or less points. Josh Allen goes for 270 and 2 touches. He puts up 25 points, doesn't really carry a lot of receivers with him. That's a story I can tell. Buffalo wins, 24.
Even,
it's reasonable. It's very reasonable.
Say Josh Allen and Diggs do get there. A lot of it comes down to roster construction or what you're able to fit in. Like last week, Hurts and AJ Brown both got there, but because of their prices, the roster constructions were very different, and it was it was very difficult to get the right thing.
Yeah, I think in order for Allen and Diggs to get there, they need to combine for 65 to 70 points, and it's possible. I think there are other routes to get there. Chris just wants to know, question here: Olave or Patterson in season-long PPR?
Yeah, I'd still go Olave. It's for a season long. Olave is much safer. We know what his work's going to be and everything. Patterson's more of like very much a tournament play in DFS. I wouldn't trust him in the season long just yet.
I think if you're a massive underdog, Patterson's worth a look. But yeah, for the most part, Olave is the safe play. In New England, Deion Jackson is cash worthy, and I actually prefer him on FanDuel because he's way further priced down on FanDuel than the other running backs, and I do think there's a route to use him. I don't need him on DraftKings. I think Stevenson is a stone cold lock on DraftKings. He's way underpriced, and I don't think he's 100% necessary on FanDuel, though I believe he's in my FanDuel cash lineup. But he's priced up a lot in FanDuel. I don't see another cash gameplay here. I can't imagine, outside of the Patriots defense and Stevenson, that we are in love with this game for tournaments.
Not really. I do like, if you don't have Stevenson in the lineup, I think Jacoby Myers is a nice pivot off of it. The target volume is definitely going to be there, and if Myers scores a touchdown, it directly takes away from Stevenson. So I think Myers is a good tournament play in that sense. Myers really is the only guy that they're throwing to realistically. And also too, I do think as well that Tyquan Thornton maybe has a little potential here. As just kind of you really need a punt type of guy. 3,300. He's seeing some work. He had that one explosive game, and he hasn't done much, but he's seeing some targets. And if Indianapolis is not doing much, and New England kind of has a comfortable lead, you could see them maybe throw some to Thornton just to see what he's got too. So there could be a little bit of that garbage time type stuff there as well potentially. Also too, one thing for New England, it's not taking me off of Stevenson, but the Patriots did. I know because Damian Harris is inactive, they had to activate somebody, but they did activate J.J. Taylor, and they also activated Lynn Bowden. So there is kind of like Bowden's characterized as a wide receiver, even though he's really was a running back in college and all. He's more of a gadget player, but still, these are the type of guys that Belichick just loves to use. Like if Ty Montgomery wasn't hurt, like Stevenson probably wouldn't be getting the workload that he is realistically. So again, that's not taking me off of Stevenson. I think it's just something to be mindful of, that you could see some funkiness happen that, torpedoes Stevenson's day in a sense.
You bite your tongue, my boy Ramondre. It's a Vegas boy, I believe. Minnesota, Washington. We love this game. I think McLaurin is cash worthy. I think you can make an argument for Jefferson or Cook. I would make the argument for Gibson, though I don't think we have to. But I love this game for tournaments, and I know you do too. So talk to me about this game. We got the Kirk Cousins revenge game, but you're on the other side of this game, aren't you?
Yeah, I like Cousins. I do. I like the savings though with Heineke as well. So I really like McLaurin and all that. And it's always if the receiver's doing well, what does the quarterback do? So, and I didn't have to dig that deep, thankfully. But since Heineke became the starter last year, actually, I'll give you the exact numbers. Let's see. That's not it. So since Heineke became the starter last year, he started 17 games. He's gone 4X in 6 of those at a 35% rate, which is pretty good odds. Again, for a guy that's $5,400 and he's going to be, under 2% owned. And in those games, McLaurin has gone 3X 5 times and 4X 4 times, and they've all correlated to when Heineke has hit that level. So basically the history and the odds are telling you, if you like McLaurin in that way, that you think McLaurin's going to get you to where you need, I mean, the odds are that Heineke's going to get you there as well. And if that's the case, when Washington is having a good output, that's just going to elevate the Minnesota passing game as well, which I already, liked given the matchup and the injuries and just really poor play in the Washington secondary as well. And Jefferson's been a little back and forth this year, but I mean his issue really has been he's not scoring touchdowns, which is pretty crazy to think. And when that touchdown bad luck turns around, I mean Jefferson's probably not scoring 1 touchdown; he's probably scoring 2 or 3. Like it's probably going to come in bunches. And
like Kamara.
Yeah, and if Minnesota is going to have to pass a little more in this game, like I think they will, because Washington actually has a fairly decent run defense. This could be the week you see Jefferson get 2 touchdowns with 10 catches. And if he does, and McLaurin's going off as well, you're starting at a great point where, all these guys, are going to be, McLaurin and Jefferson aren't even going to combine to give you a 15% ownership. I mean, it's pretty crazy with the upside they possess. And Minnesota, their games, haven't been perfect for fantasy, but there've been more points scored in their games lately, and that could eventually translate to it all coming from the offense in the optimal way.
I make the argument for Antonio Gibson here because I've been teasing it all show. He's had 4 more targets in all but 2 games this year. J.D. McKissick is out. He's got touchdowns in each of the last 2 games receiving. I do think they like using him inside the red zone. I think they've realized he is the more talented player between him and Brian Robinson, though I think Robinson's the guy they want to run between the tackles. And they're starting to remember that Gibson was a wide receiver in college, and they're getting him the ball more, and they're getting him out into space. Exactly. And he is a good open field runner. And this is the kind of matchup where you can definitely play the dump off game, line him up in the slot, do all sorts of things with him. And he is a tough guy. Like he will go between the tackles, and he can score from inside the 5. We saw that each of the last 2 games. I have an unhealthy amount of Antonio Gibson today, and I'm stacking Heineke with Gibson and McLaurin because of the target volume here, and I don't think there's a viable second receiving option necessarily in
there really isn't.
Emmett Samuel's kind of fallen off a cliff a little bit, and Heineke runs a little bit too. So I think that those runs will take off some of those dump offs to the slot receiver. So give me Gibson with Heineke and McLaurin, run it back with Justin Jefferson, and you're looking at a very low owned, very high upside stack. And I do like the over. I think the over under on this game, the total's 43.5. I will happily look at the over on this game.
Yeah, and also too, I mean, if playing this game, it gives you a lot of leeway in other areas. Like if if you're hesitant that Stevenson and Etienne are going to be a combined 65 to 80% owned. If you have this as a game stack, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at that point.
And you can definitely win with higher owned guys. Like we've seen it. Like my win a few weeks ago, almost every player was in the 20% range for the most part. It came together. If you have the nuts, you have the nuts. And if the chalk hits, like you can still make it work. So I think that works really well. Chargers and Falcons should also be a pretty good game. Even though the Falcons tend to slow the game down by running a lot, and we do have the Chargers coming east. Like this could be a trap. Like it could be. And I think Hook brought it up, or Chris, or someone brought it up in Slack the other day. This could be a trap.
Hook did, like on Monday or Tuesday.
But I have a real hard time not believing Eckler is going to have a big game. He gets the target volume. I mean, his target volume is ridiculous. Doesn't get a ton of rushes, but they do love him inside the 20. So that's fine. He's had multiple touchdowns in 3 of the last 4 games. He's a 20-plus point a game guy. The floors, I mean, he scored 34 more points in 3 or 4 games, and their top 2 receivers are out. Like and it's an Atlanta team that's been plucky. So you think the Chargers are going to have to stay in it, but we saw last week Atlanta could definitely get run on. And so I think Eckler's in a great spot for cash, particularly. Josh Palmer should be very popular for cash. I'm actually not going there for cash. He'll be fine, but I'm not stacking both him and Eckler, and I prefer Eckler. I also think Gerald Everett is a potential cash play this week, given the fact that he's been a high target guy, and Atlanta's terrible against tight ends. And I know you brought it up in your article where you said that Atlanta has given up like the 3rd most points to tight ends, but they don't get a ton of touchdowns. Like it's volume based, which is great for a guy like Everett, who's also a red zone beast. There's a lot of ways you can go with the Chargers. Even if they don't hit expectations, they could still on volume get there for cash purposes. What are you thinking tournament wise for this game? I believe, was it you who said earlier that you're starting to come around on Mariota?
Yeah,
I think it was you. You kind of look like Mariota, by the way. I never tell you look like Marcus Mariota.
Me?
You definitely look like Marcus Mariota. Yeah, I actually see that now. Yeah, you got similar facial features for whatever that's worth.
And it may be better angles. I've gotten a lot of Matt Stafford comparisons too.
I definitely see Mariota.
And my younger years, I got a lot of Vince Vaughn.
All right, I get that. I see that for sure. So explain who I believe is your NFL doppelganger, Marcus Mariota. Let's talk about Mariota. Why are you coming around on him a little bit?
So my thing with Mariota here is, the game's a high total. Atlanta games have kind of sneakily had some high outputs, especially the past couple of weeks. Even that Tampa game, I mean, 36 points for an Atlanta game is kind of high for the way they run their offense and everything as well. And the Chargers can be a little susceptible. But anyway, so the reason I like Mariota is really because of the pieces here, right? We're liking Eckler. I really like Palmer as well. I think the volume's going to be through the roof for him and Everett. And so when you look at it, given the prices and the things that we like, Eckler can get 2 touchdowns here. Palmer and Everett can get there on volume without necessarily scoring. Maybe you need a touchdown for Palmer. But still, you can get, like, the Chargers can put up 4 touchdowns, and Herbert's maybe only throwing 2 of them. And, Herbert's giving you a 25-point day, which is okay, but not really what you need or what you want. But if the Chargers are putting up points, Mariota's got some rushing upside that is a little underrated. He's actually completing his passes at a pretty high rate. He's playing, even though he's not throwing a lot, Mariota's playing pretty well this year. He's not great, but he's playing solid. And with the way that the Falcons do play the game, I think Mariota, with, again, double stacking 2 of those 3 Chargers guys, and using, I think, Kyle Pitts, I think makes a ton of sense here, because there is upside with Pitts. They haven't used them great, but I'm warming up to Pitts as well. I mean, maybe they finally figured something out last week that, hey, we got to get our best player the ball.
You think?
It's yeah, and also too the Chargers have struggled a bit versus the tight end as well, and that can be something that maybe gets exploited. They've given up some decent numbers versus the tight end the past couple of weeks. The over the last 4 weeks, 1, 2, 3, they've given up the eighth most points to tight ends, but they've only played 3 games. So that even that says a little something. Lately how teams have been attacking them, and they haven't played Kansas City because Kansas City sometimes throws those numbers for a loop, but they haven't played Kansas City. So I think Atlanta is a good spot here.
Am I crazy for liking Damiere Byrd as a tournament play? Am I way out of whack because I have a lot of Damiere
Byrd? No, I don't think so. I don't know what I really feel about it. Maybe more as a one-off, just given the value. I wouldn't necessarily put it within a game stack of this, but I think there's some potential there. Because the Chargers do have a couple of really strong corners that if Bird, if they say they're taking away London and Zacchaeus with Callahan and Asante Samuel. I mean, it leaves Bird for some, potential there to get volume if they're not giving Pitts 8 to 10 targets in this one.
I like using him as a run back on an Eckler mini stack or an Everett mini stack because Everett's one of the more expensive tight ends. I feel this is the way to lower that effective cost. Something I've been tinkering with. What about over in Miami, Chicago? Outside of Fields, I'm not really. I guess you can make an argument for Hill because of his target volume, but I'm not really loving this game for cash outside of Fields. Tournament wise, you like this, right? Like there's definitely paths to success here.
Yeah, I think this is another one that you got to have some good exposure to, and kind of on all ends as well. I think Raheem Mostert is very much in play, and then again bringing up. I was talking with Hook about the slate, and before I even started, building lineups or even having my research finished, just the price of Tua, Hill, and Waddle, I was like, I can't see myself building those lineups because those guys are just going to be too expensive. I don't know how it's going to fit, and that actually doesn't fit that badly. If you, especially me using a Mooney run back with it, you can actually build some pretty good lineups, and you don't have to take that much liberties or punting even. I don't particularly care for Tua's price. That worries me. Yes, similar to Atlanta. I mean, I think the better way to play this is using Fields, because the theory of it too is very similar. If Hill and Waddle are going to get you to where you need, yes, Tua might get there as well and have 28, 30, 32 points with Hill and Waddle going off, which is fine, but because of the price differential, you may not need Tua if you have Hill and Waddle and if you use Fields. Because, again, Fields, you're looking 20 to 25 points. And if it's a game that Tua is getting you there, Fields is probably throwing a ton. Like, the Bears are probably speeding up their offense to keep up with Miami's pace. And also, too, if it is something like that, it's going to give Fields more running opportunities, which really is what we're looking for here. We're looking for a 60 to 80 rushing yard output with potential of a rushing touchdown. And now even like you look at last week, he got you 60 yards and a rushing touchdown. If he only throws for $150, and even if he gets you one pass touchdown, let alone two, he's not having that great of a game per se, but he's doing what you need from a fantasy standpoint. And I think that's the more important thing to note than to say, well, Hill and Waddle are going off, so you need Tua. Not necessarily.
Well, I'm looking at the data here. Justin Fields has scored 19 or more fantasy points each of the last 3 weeks. Tua has gone over 19 twice this whole year. Tua doesn't have to get there for Tyreek and or Waddle to get there. Like I think Tua, and as a matter of fact, Tua has not gotten there the majority of the weeks, whereas Fields has done it 3 straight weeks. I actually really like Fields with Hill and Waddle as your stack. Because of the way Fields runs, it makes it's a viable option here. It's a weird one, but it's viable.
I mean, you could also go the Gesicki route, just because he has been seeing a little more volume. The Bears, without Roquan Smith last week, they got torched pretty good by the Dallas tight ends. And again, if you go Gesicki, Waddle, who tend to be the guys that get those red zone looks and everything, and tend to get more in the end zone, I think that's a viable pivot potentially off of Tyreek.
Any love for Claypool this week?
Nah, I can't trust it. Because it's just, I have no idea. I don't think the passing volume is going to be enough, that at least not yet. And I don't really know what they're going to do with Claypool so quickly. I have a feeling Claypool's a guy that's going to take a little longer to grasp the playbook and what they do. He just seems like that type of more low character guy. He's got a ton of talent, but the character has always been a little bit of a concern there, I think.
We are all very, very skewed, and maybe rightfully so, by when they were down and he stood up and celebrated last year when they needed to drive for the playoffs. I remember that.
Oh God,
that was the clock run. I get it though. I get it. Like he ain't the sharpest tool in the shed sometimes. Though they say he went the McCaffrey route and was in the playbook. So who knows on the way to the team? So who knows? Carolina, Cincinnati. Carolina defense is very much in play. I love DJ Moore at his price. He's a $6,500 guy. He's way too cheap. Higgins and Boyd are fine, but I don't know how much since he's going to throw for cash. I think that Joe Mixon, I think, is more tournament than cash play. So it's really for me just DJ Moore and the Carolina defense here. Tournament is this I don't know, this game just feels like it's going to be blah for the most part. I just don't see myself getting excited tournament.
I think so too. I mean, I have a little Mixon exposure. I've got some DJ Moore. I think I have on a lineup or two. I think I've got a little Boyd and DJ Moore correlation. Because I think Boyd, if you want exposure to passing game, I think it's Boyd and not Higgins in this game, given the way the Carolina secondary breaks down.
Yep.
That's kind of really it. I mean, there's it's just given the prices and everything, it's a little tough. I mean, I made a Cincinnati stack on just really Burrow Boyd, but I did some super draft lineups this week. So it makes a little more sense there with their multipliers, but
sure.
DraftKings, it's I looked at it. Yeah, I mean, I looked at it. I made my lineups. I'm like, I don't have a Burrow lineup. I'm like, I'm not really worried about it realistically.
Where Big Matt asked earlier about, will you regret not having Foreman? And he said no. I do think the one player I may regret not having more of, or that I could, is Mixon. I do think this sets a Mixon game. But I just can't bring myself to go there when I can click ATN and Ramondre Stevenson. And I understand, in tournaments we want to get a little uncomfortable, but I'm choosing to be comfortable at different positions and the way that I'm stacking games. And I've chosen to not get there. Now, because I've talked about it, I will probably do it. I do a couple lineups after the show. I'll probably throw a Mixon DJ Moore mini stack in there somewhere just because I talked about it. And I do think I could regret not using them, but I also just don't see myself ever clicking there. There's just the prices for that $6,500 range. I mean, you've got just the ATN Stevenson, Walker, Mostert. I don't know. I'm just not getting there with Joe Mixon. Green Bay, Detroit. I like me some Khalif Raymond in cash today. I just think he's underpriced. Make the argument for Aaron Jones, Alan Lazard, maybe Robert Tonyan, but and definitely people are going to play Rodgers. I think you wrote that he's now the second most rostered quarterback, or tied for the most with Josh Allen, which is ridiculous. I've got some Aaron Rodgers, but honestly, I'm attacking this game from the other side. I've actually Goff stacks. Goff, Raymond, St. Brown. You're shaking your head. No, you hate it. With Aaron Jones run back or Tonyan run back. I don't know Goff at home though this year. He's put up points. I mean, he's averaging 25 points at home this year, and it's Green Bay's defense isn't great. Last week he threw a touchdown and had 21 points. Like 21 points on $5,500 really works.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think I'm on it. I'm on the Detroit side. I will say my one Yahoo lineup this week, my Yahoo Cup lineup is a Detroit stack from the Goff side. Like I Told you I'm getting weird this week. This is a weird week. How do you like to play this one? How are you playing it? If you're not going the Goff side, how are you playing it?
I mean, it's definitely not wrong with the Goff side.
Might not be right, though.
I came across the craziest stat yesterday that I can't believe is actually true. Because of how bad it feels the season he's had. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has the most multi-touchdown games this season for a quarterback, which is freaking mind-blowing. And I looked at it, and it's really the problem with Rodgers is the yardage. And it's, so if this is, and that becomes the whole thing, is this a game that they're going to, because it's not like he's throwing a little bit, like, last week only 30 times, but I mean, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4. He's got right. Yeah, he's got 5 games where he's thrown it 35 or more times. He's got a 39 and a 41 pass attempt game, and then one game where he didn't get to 35. He threw it 34 times. So it's not like the volume is not there for Rodgers. It's the lack of explosive plays in the pass game, and I think that's really what they lose from Devontae Adams, because even he's got a 94 passer rating. I mean, he's not really playing bad. It's just the yardage is not there because nobody is able to do anything.
He has 0 games above 17 fantasy points.
Yeah,
I'm going to find the worst quarterback I can find. Bailey Zappi has more games than that, over 17, doesn't he? I'm now going to try to find the worst quarterback I can find. Bailey Zappi has more 18 plus point games than Aaron Rodgers this year. Like that's
I'm
sure quite a bit.
Like that's the whole thing.
Baker had more. Baker has more.
One.
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the whole thing. If
0.
If Lazard and Dobbs can make big plays, not having Aaron Rodgers is going to kill you this week. But is that really going to happen? Like that's the hard part, because Green Bay does like to run the ball. And, I mean, Detroit's run defense is an absolute abomination. And realistically, how do you not game plan this one to get Aaron Jones a minimum of 20 to 25 opportunities? I mean, he did great against Buffalo last week. It didn't help them, but he did great against Washington 2 weeks ago. I mean, the weeks where they game plan more for Jones and use him more are the weeks that they do well. So I think that's kind of the downside to Rodgers really is Aaron Jones. Now, again, if you think if this is the week Aaron Rodgers does it and Aaron Jones plays a huge role, I think you just stack Rodgers and Jones and hope that one of Lazard or Dobbs is not a guy that you absolutely need. And you kind of go from there. And then the Detroit side, I mean, we talked about Raymond before. We know the salary savings and what the potential there could be. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be, it's going to have a really strong game. I mean, he played well last week.
Low. He's too cheap.
Yeah, I mean, he had 10 targets last week. He went 7 for 69. He didn't have an awful game. It's just his we'd
have felt better about this game if he scored a touchdown. He's 7 for 69.
Well,
20 points. We're happy if he gets 20.
Yeah. So that becomes the whole thing. And I also too, I think Jamal Williams is a good piece this week. The Green Bay run defense is not very strong. There is potential there, and also too, Swift is limited. Swift is going to be the passing game guy, but even limited role there. And Jamal Williams doesn't get any targets anyway. So we're looking for, those 15 rush attempts, and hopefully he falls in the end zone twice, or if he breaks his 60-yarder, he runs for over 100 yards and he gets you a touchdown. But he's in that price point where the popularity is among so many other guys that if you use Williams and Williams gives you 20 and the other guys kind of fail, it's big.
The Jamal Williams revenge game.
Yes.
He's got 4 multi-touchdown games. And at $5,900, he's pretty good price guy. I think Robert Tunyon's a guy that we should also consider here. I've got my stacks for this game on the Aaron Rodgers side is Rodgers, Jones, Tunyon. He trusts Tunyon. He loves Tunyon in the red zone, though he only has the 1 touchdown this year. And Tunyon can actually get in the field a little bit too. And Detroit's terrible against him. So I don't know. I think that's the way to go with this game. Vegas and the Jags for me. We talked about it at the beginning of the show, I do think Ingram is viable, but not if I'm using ATN. I'm not stacking Jacksonville yet, but I like ATN quite a bit. Would love to see a higher target volume, but really 3 targets in 3 or 4 games isn't horrible. And he's got that game-breaking ability. He's got the long runs every single week. I just think he's going to be the highest owned guy anyway, so you might as well roster him in cash. Tournament-wise, I know you like the Jaguar side of the team.
I do. So
Explain.
yeah, I mean, so so on the Jaguar side, like we all seen what's happened to the Raiders' run defense, or so everyone kind of thinks. Kamara had a big game last week, but a lot of it was more on the passing side. The Raiders are actually allowing 16.4 fantasy points a game to running backs, but from the pass, opposed to 12.7 fantasy points a game to running backs via the rush. And, ETN has not really seen the target volume that you would think he would, because he's got a really strong skill set in the passing game, but he's their lead rusher now with nobody else really there to do it. So that could potentially hurt him there. And just the fact that he's going to be so highly owned, the Raiders' pass defense is atrocious. Like it really, really is. And, with that, it presents a very strong opportunity for the passing game, and it's a very easy, natural pivot off of the ETN ownership. That if Lawrence throws for 275 and 3 touchdowns, ETN is not getting you there. It's that simple. So if it does come from Lawrence, there's it's really Kirk and Ingram as well. It's even pretty easy from that standpoint. I know Kirk hasn't been as good lately because the passing game has slowed versus earlier in the year, but we've seen that upside from Kirk. And Ingram's been getting a lot more volume as well, so I think there's a really strong route here. And, and then even that, the bring back is really easy. It's a low-owned Devontae Adams that nobody's going to look at because of what happened last week. But Adams didn't play that much last week, which is not being talked about that much either because he was sick. He's good now. He's got no issues. And I mean, Devontae Adams at 8,100 just seems way too cheap. It just really does. And it's a very strong matchup. I mean, the Jaguars defense is not what it was that it started the year. It was kind of smoke and mirrors. And now they're, in the, the bottom 25% in, across the board. It's, I think it's a really good spot here.
I actually don't mind Matt Collins in this matchup either. He's been really good, and it seems to earn a bit of Derek Carr's trust too. So 4,500, not a terrible potential run back, or if you're stacking from the Raiders side, someone to look at. Seattle, Arizona, we talked about. Hopkins is cash. Tyler Lockett is definitely in play as well. Where I noticed in your article, right? So I don't think we're playing this game overly heavily. I don't think either of these last 2 games are playing overly heavily, but I do think having some exposure, because not a lot of people are going to play them heavily, works. You mentioned Fant instead of Disley in your article, if I'm not mistaken. What's the rationale there? Because I think Disley's the better play after I got burned for Fant and cash last week. Maybe I'm just angry.
Yeah.
But what's the thought process there?
I just think Fant's the more talented guy. I mean, he was part of the trade. I mean, whether that was the Seattle side or the Denver side, I don't really know. But I just think Fant's the more talented guy and can make things happen. And the target share is kind of similar to Disley now.
Yes.
So I think the potential is there a little more. And then the salary savings. I mean, it's $100, but sometimes the lower price guy is sometimes the better. Yeah, the better route as well. So this is a weird one. Both defenses have kind of been playing better. Seattle's defense is a little better than people, I think, give it credit for. But at the same token, I do think that this could be the game. I think this could be potentially the game that we regret not having.
Okay.
I think there could be something. There. I mean, Kyler is running a bit more lately. Kyler is starting to look much better with Hopkins there. and
shocking.
Yeah, and then Ertz is I mean, I don't know. Ertz just isn't doing what he did last year, but Seattle's been really bad against the tight ends as well, and Arizona's been bad against the tight ends, and I think Lockett is in line for potentially a big game as well. So it's weird. It's one of those games that I'm not strongly convicted on, but there's definitely a good route for this game to put up 60 points as well. And if it does, I think it's going to be very, very concentrated. I don't think you're going to see a wide ranging of where it's going to go.
So that's kind of like the way to build that. What about the Rams Bucks? This to me, shockingly, when you first look at the beginning of the year, like, oh, it's going to be a great game. I have no interest in this game pretty much at all. There's just nothing about this game that makes me want to touch it. Maybe the defenses, but I don't. This game doesn't exist in my world.
No, I mean you can. I mean you can maybe try to jam Cooper Kupp in there to get yourself a little contrarian. Only because they're missing their Murphy Bunting, and Antoine Winfield is out as well. So I mean it was kind of a good matchup to begin with, but with the extra injuries there, it really does open up the middle of the field for Kupp and how he goes.
He's cheap for Kupp. Like he's underpriced for what he normally would go for.
And that's the other part too. Like, chasing Kupp to get 36 points as opposed to getting to 40 or 42 points is when you get up to those levels, that's a big difference.
It is.
So I do think there's I don't have any Kupp exposure this week. I don't think it's going to kill me per se, but I think there's potentially a route there if you wanted to find a way to get a little different.
We did this last week, and we're surely not going to do it every week because it's not my normal price point. But let's build a Millie Maker lineup because DraftKings offered 500 crowns to build Millie Maker lineups, and since I'm a crown whore, let's do that. I think based off the conversation and where we're at and the lineups that I've already got built and what I believe you've got built, I think maybe we should look at this stack right here, an Arizona Seattle stack. Let's get exposure to the game. Like, let's give a reason to give a shit this afternoon, and let's build something from here. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing this game, that's really, I think, the only route you can go.
All right, so assume we'll just go Carolina for the defense because why spend up at this point? And that gives us a little more money to spend elsewhere. Where else you want to go? You want to go like Palmer, Patterson? Does that, because we just got 53 a player. Does that work, or is there another? I don't know, Mostert, Mooney, Jamal Williams, and a Green Bay receiver, maybe Jamal Williams and Lazard. Oh, I don't actually hate that.
Yeah, I actually really like that. I think that's good having some exposure into that game. And Lazard's probably going to be overlooked because he was questionable all week and on the fence.
So that leaves us like not a ton of money. So we're going to have to spend down at a wide receiver position, which we should be able to do. Do we want to eat a little bit of chalk with, like, I don't know, Stevenson, ATN? I don't really want to go too high. Do we want to just say F it and let's get Mixon exposure, even though we're running the Carolina defense? And then maybe can we make, let's see, 65, which gives me 75, 85. No, it doesn't give me enough. Like, can't go above 63, and then we really need to go.
Maybe we get that Mostert. We can go Patterson. I mean, I was going to say Patterson or Mostert.
Let's see what we can do with Patterson and then see if Mostert's a better option. Patterson gives us 3,500. Oh, we can go Patterson Bandy. We can go with our ultimate punt guy, even though I said he's off. Maybe DeAndre Carter is sick but not actually playing, and now we've got ourselves a little bit of a chance to attack this game. It's ugly, but we're 3,500. Like, what else are you going to do with this price point?
Yeah. I mean, the only other option.
Work for you?
Yeah, I mean, the only other option down there really is Tyquan Thornton, but Bandy may have better route to success, I think.
All right, so we'll make sure that we put what's his face in the
Hopkins
in the flex. All right, I don't actually hate this lineup the way that I thought I was going to when we first started building it. I think there's a path to success. All right, Millie Maker lineup engaged. All right, let's do this. All right, one big takeaway. Good luck to you too, Matt. One big takeaway for this week. What's going to be the big news coming out of this week's games?
100 yards and a touchdown
What's
for
your
Terry
big
McLaurin. 100 yards and a touchdown for Terry McLaurin.
100 yards and a touch. Keeping it simple this week, huh? I like that. I don't really want to talk to Leaf Raymond. I love McLaurin too. I'm going to just stick with him. I think that the Washington is going to surprise us. I think Washington, Minnesota, 50 total points. I think exposure to that game is going to be key. Hook me up with that game. I really, really like it. That's it for this week. This has been Heat Map Fantasy NFL Live Week 9. Like, we did it. We got out 12:22. Not terrible. Not the latest we've ever gotten out. We did it. We made it okay. And for Michael Guttadero at the Big Gutta, I'm Doug Shane at Bankster17. Come check me out over on Twitter on my pinned tweet. It has the links to sign up. I have no idea what my dad is screaming at me. He's screaming something at me as I'm trying to outro the show. Come check out the pinned tweet. It's $3.99 a week for all of our content. All sports, football and basketball, hockey, soccer, PGA is coming back, national MMA, everything. $3.99 a week, and join the Comma Club. I like that we're playing a Comma Club now. Join that Comma Club. We've had like a member of the Comma Club many weeks in a row now. $1,000 winners. It's wonderful. Come check us out. Heat Map Fantasy Sports. See you next week.